This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Granger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. See ebaymotors.com.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Last year, they went and took it.
He struck him out looking.
This year,
the Texas Rangers win the World Series.
They're here to run it back.
It's over.
This is Believe in Texas Rangers, hosted by Mitch Ferreldis.
He did it! Yay! Welcome into Believe in Texas Rangers, everybody. This is reacting to the series that just happened against the Cincinnati Reds on this Monday off day. And then we'll, of course, get you ready for the upcoming Washington Nationals series at Globe Life Field. Hey, if you like what you're listening to, be sure to rate 5 stars. Be sure to download, subscribe, let your friends know about Believe in Texas Rangers. And you can also watch every episode of Believe in Texas Rangers on the Believe in Texas Rangers YouTube channel. You could just search Believe in Texas Rangers, or you can search my name, Mitch Ferreldis. It's probably easier to search Believe in Texas Rangers. Just going to warn you of that now. But let's get right into it. Let's start with what has to be our top story on this episode.
Wyatt Watch.
He did it. He finally, almost a full month into the season, got his first big league home run. And it was, of course, in the most unconventional fashion, because how else was Wyatt Langford going to get his first home run of the year than by an inside the park home run? Like, as if this season was already off to a weird start, or wasn't already off to a weird start, I mean. Now we've got the rookie who everybody had been so excited to see based on how well he performed in spring, how quickly he rose through the minor league ranks. This is by far the weirdest way to get your first home run. And crazy enough, he's not the first to get his first career home run as a Ranger via inside the park home run. He's the fourth. He's the fourth in franchise history to hit an inside the park home run for his first career home run. And I think what's fascinating about this one is he even said after the game with Emily Jones at Bally Sports Southwest, quote, "I don't think anyone envisioned it that way, but I mean, it's super cool, and I will definitely remember it forever." Yeah, of course you're going to remember it forever. It'll be even funnier if, as we get to different milestones in his career, like once he gets to 50 in his regular season career, will it also be an inside the park home run? I don't think it'll go that far. But I think a lot of us, and I think I can speak safely for a lot of us, we're all relieved that this particular benchmark is out of the way for Wyatt, because it's still been, I should say, a relatively rough start to the season after the high of opening weekend. And now, as the weeks have gone on, we're starting to kind of get a better idea of how Wyatt has been performing so far this season. Average currently sits at 248. He got that first home run yesterday, as we mentioned. He has 11 runs batted in on the year, and he's got an OPS of 651. And particularly in the last 7 games, He has 5 hits out of 18 at-bats. He scored 3 times. He has the double, the homer, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. So this was an encouraging last 7 days as far as Wyatt is concerned. And you have to think now that the first home run is out of the way, things are only going to go up from here. You have to think that now that he's finally gotten this proverbial monkey off of his back, he can just go out there and relax and focus on doing the task at hand. And hopefully at the same time, he won't be called by umpires outside of the zone again. Because as of yesterday, and shout out Sean McFarland with Dallas Morning News, who once again encapsulated the K zone of Wyatt Langford this season when it comes to pitches called outside the zone. And once again, as we've learned, as a result of everything that we've seen so far this season, Wyatt continues to get called pitches outside the zone. I mean, look at this. This is where a majority of his pitches are getting called outside of the zone, and then these two were already there. He's up to 21 called strikes outside of the zone this year. That leads Major League Baseball better than Mookie Betts. Like, eventually, sooner or later, somebody is going to favor this man. I would only hope that somebody is going to give him the proper adjudication behind the plate. Even Bochy said it's hard to explain why. Like, it's crazy. And then, to take it a step further, if you want a better idea of just how much Wyatt Langford is getting called outside the zone in comparison to the other pitches that he's seeing, Scott Lucas, who does great independent coverage of the Rangers minor league teams. If you haven't gotten a chance, give him a follow at Scott R. Lucas. 98 called strikes all season, so about 1 in every 5 calls against Langford has been wrong. 21 pitches out of 98 called strikes have been outside of the zone. Sooner or later, he's going to get the fair adjudication. It's clear throughout the month of April, he has not been getting fair adjudication. And I guess, look, Mookie Betts at 18, that's not far off either. And he's a generational superstar. But even so, a kid who's trying to break out and trying to show just how talented he is at such a young age, it really sucks that he's getting these pitches called against him. All right, enough ranting about Wyatt getting screwed over, because he finally got that big home run, and they needed it, especially because of the way the offense is playing right now. And I'm going to reference a piece that Kennedy Landry with MLB.com, who covers the Rangers, she wrote this after the 8-4 loss on Saturday to the Reds, where the Rangers could not score until the bottom of the 9th inning. And then if you want to even parlay that into yesterday's game, the Rangers scored 4 runs in the bottom of the first and then did not score again the rest of the game. And the Reds absolutely made a game of it yesterday in a 4-3 loss. And Kirby Yates had his first really taxing outing, I guess you could say. He got up to 24 pitches. He didn't allow any runs, but he allowed a couple base runners, and there were some prime hitters at the plate to try and bring them in. And if not for Josh Smith and his good glove at third base and his keen eye, we could be talking about a different result from yesterday. But back to Landry's piece. So she specifically pointed out what is up with the Rangers hit and miss offense. And so I live in Arizona, and I get to watch the Diamondbacks very, very closely as well. And funny enough, these two teams that went to the World Series, they're kind of dealing with similar struggles right now. The advantage for the Rangers is the fact that they have the better record of 15-14. The Diamondbacks are a couple of games under 500. But they're dealing with a lot of the same things. A lot of their key players are hurt, specifically to their starting rotation. The offense will have tremendous outbursts one day and then absolutely shrink for 2 or 3 straight days. Are these guys tired from the extended amount of playing that they had to do late into early November? Are these guys just not fully ready to go because they didn't fully get all that they wanted to get out of spring training, and maybe they just need the extra month to really get back into form? I don't know. But Kennedy pointed to 3 things. Again, this is Saturday. This is after the Saturday game. So this does not take into account the Sunday win. Number one, she points to Corey Seager not being Corey Seager, she says. Corey Seager went 0-4 yesterday. He wasn't initially in the lineup, and then he was a late addition to the lineup, and then he went 0-4. And so far on the year, Corey is hitting .238, has the 2 home runs, so at least he's got the pop. 7 RBI and a .641 OPS, Not a great start to the year for the guy that helped you win the World Series last year and a guy that was runner-up MVP last year. He's very much off to a slow start. And where he hits in the order is a pivotal part of the lineup. He hits second in the order most games. And again, they're not concerned. It's even referenced in Kennedy's piece that they're not concerned about the way the offense is struggling right now, particularly Seager. They just assume that he's going to come around. It's the month of April. The reason that we're hyper-focusing on this stuff is because he just doesn't look like Corey Seager right now. And maybe it's because he didn't have the full spring training that you would have hoped for. He is recovering from surgery. At the same time, it's Corey Seager. We have high expectations for Corey Seager. He did miss some games last year as well, but then when he came back, he was an absolute catalyst for the offense. Maybe once we get into the month of May, we'll start to see the uptick as far as Corey Seager's production is concerned. The second thing that Kennedy pointed to, rookies not hitting their stride. And of course, we opened the show talking about Wyatt Langford and his struggle to produce so far this year, even though he got that first home run out of the way. Evan Carter has struggled as well. And I'm not going to say mightily, but lest we forget, he started the year where it was, 6 consecutive games before he got his first hit of the year. He had the day off yesterday. Certainly needed it as well. Evan Carter is now hitting .213 on the year. He has the 5 home runs, so the power stroke is there. 10 driven in and a .771 OPS, which I guarantee is being carried by the fact that he's got 5 home runs, and whenever he hits the ball, it's for extra bases. It's tough to gauge right now. He's also striking out a lot. He struck out 7 times in his last 7 games. On the regular season, he struck out 24 times. It's a very, very slow start for Evan. And this is a guy that was hitting third in the lineup most of the postseason and was hitting third in the lineup mostly to start this season. You know that they're eventually going to turn. We've seen how good Evan Carter can be. He's also just as valuable defensively. It's just right now we're not getting it. And maybe we will soon. Maybe it's similar to Seager where turn the calendar and next thing you know, he just explodes for a great month of May. But right now, it's certainly lacking in his department. And Boch had a good quote about it after Saturday's game. He said, so much is made out of how you're doing at the beginning of the season, and there's a lot of tension on them. To have to put together a couple of nice games, I think it was big for them, but for us too. So hopefully this will be what triggers them to get back on track where they're going to be this year. And I will say, you have to think that the 17 consecutive games played into how much of a kind of slump Evan and Wyatt have been in. That's a lot of consecutive games, especially when it involves 3 road trips, right? You start at home, you have 7 games there, and then you go on the road for 10 in Houston, which isn't that far away. But then you got to go all the way north to Detroit and then go straight south to Atlanta. That's very, very taxing. So maybe the extra breaks, they had a day off at the beginning of this homestand. They have a day off today as you're listening to this before they have 3 games tomorrow against the Nationals. But you have to think that the start of the season has just been incredibly taxing on these guys. And then the last thing that she points to, and I think this is important, is clutch hitting. So what we know about the Rangers offense as it stands right now is they still hit for power. They still produce a high amount of runs. It's just the timing in which all of this stuff happens is not very productive. I don't know if that's necessarily the right word. It's not timely. Let's go with that.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. See ebaymotors.com.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
So this is again prior to the Sunday game. On the homestand, the Rangers have gone 5 for 28 with runners in scoring position. That includes 0 for 5 nights in the loss to Seattle, the one where they were shut out against Logan Gilbert, I think it was, and then the win over Cincinnati on Friday. So despite them winning on that Friday, they still were 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, which is to say, good thing they got their runs in when they did, because otherwise it was going to be a very, very long night. I mean, the only way that the Rangers scored were a couple of solo shots. Marcus Semien in the 8th, and then Evan Carter had one in the 2nd inning. You're lucky that it happened the way that it did, because if it didn't happen, you would have had to deal with another loss. Now, let's add in yesterday's game. As I mentioned, they only scored 4 runs. Well, I say only. 4 is a decent amount of runs when you're pitching well. But they scored 4 runs, and they were all in the 1st inning. And then they didn't score again. It was like a mere opposite of the game before on Saturday. They scored 0 runs through the first 8 innings, and then put on 4 in the bottom of the 9th when they were already down 8-0. It just doesn't, it's not consistent. And you would hope that soon they find a way to put together those timely at-bats, those timely hits, and make sure that the lineup is really producing at the times it needs to produce. I mean, we saw hits and misses in the opening series against the Cubs. We saw those hits and misses against the A's. There were time and time again where the Rangers put themselves in position to take leads or even expand leads, and they just could not do it for whatever reason. So the offense, something to keep an eye on when they face the Nationals here in the coming days. But case in point, in this series against the Reds, they scored 4, 4, and 2. So they scored 10 runs in the series against the Reds, where the Reds scored 1, 8, and 3. The Reds outscored them in this series and are leaving with 2 losses. Normally, it doesn't happen that way. But because of the disproportionate amount of scoring by the Reds on the Saturday, that's what we're left with. All right, really quickly, want to give some love to some of the pitchers throughout this week. Nate Eovaldi once again had a great start on Friday. 6 innings, 3 hits, a run allowed, 8 strikeouts on 97 pitches, able to eat up a majority of the work. Jose Leclerc continues to knock his ERA down, now moved into this setup man role that he's been put into, or these late inning high leverage roles that he's been put into. And then Kirby Yates, again, collecting another save on the Friday, also collected a save yesterday, as we mentioned. A much more taxing effort for Kirby, but he continues to, he's not allowed to run an earned run yet this year. And he's got 5 saves on the year since being moved to that role as the closer of this team. Welcome back, Josh Spores. He made his first appearance since being activated off of the injured list. He replaced Grant Anderson on the roster. He got his 3rd hold of the year, coming in for Dane Dunning, who I can't believe we took this long to give Dane Dunning his flowers, because he was excellent yesterday. It's a bummer that he couldn't finish up the 6th inning to get that quality start. 5 1/3 innings, 3 hits allowed, a run allowed, 10 strikeouts on 69 pitches. But it was that top of the 6th inning where everything just kind of got away from him. And that's where a majority of the runs started to come home. And, Dane couldn't finish it off. But this was by far a great bounce back start for Dane, who got really roughed up the week before, or the earlier in the homestand, I should say, against the Mariners, where he allowed 4 runs. This was a much better outing, and the way his cutter was just absolutely confusing the Reds hitters was astounding. Great to see that out of Dane. We got our first rough start of the year from Michael Lorenzen. Not a quality start this time around. He had the quality start against the Braves. He had the shutout 5 innings against the Tigers. And then his third start against the Reds, he really got kind of beat up. 6 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned, struck out 3 on 100 pitches, but he still threw 6 innings because the Rangers needed him to throw those innings. And to Michael's credit, he threw really well for the first 6 innings. He only allowed the 3 runs. He very much kept the Rangers in that ball game, but things started to unravel in the top of the 7th. And as a result, then you have Jose Urena picking up the slack, and eventually Jose just finished out the game that they eventually lost 8-4. I don't think there's anything to freak out about as far as Lorenzen's concerned, this being his first blemish. And, for the most part of it, it wasn't really him. He was responsible for putting those runners on to start the 7th inning, but he wasn't the one that let them in. Not to just dump blame on Urena, but that's kind of what I'm doing. So the rotation's kind of starting to settle, I would say. John Gray, he had another good start against Seattle, so that was really good to see. And Nate Eovaldi, of course, continues to be Nate Eovaldi. And then you got Lorenzen, you got Dane Dunning, and Andrew Heaney, who's, I don't know. He feels like he's going to be the first man knocked out of the rotation by the time somebody comes back. We'll touch on some of the injury updates in just a second, but that was another rough outing for Heen Dog, and you just hope that he can find a way to work the pitch counts down and keep the Rangers in games, especially with the way the offense has been inconsistent right now. They need Andrew Heaney to perform a little bit better than he's doing right now. Okay, let's hit on some of the injury updates because there's quite a few of them and some really important ones. Surely the standout one has to be in regards to Cody Bradford, who, as it turns out, is going to be out for a little bit longer than the Rangers initially hoped. He has a very small stress fracture on the 12th rib of his right side, per manager Bruce Bochy. So he's going to miss at least another month. And that's a real bummer because he had started the season so darn well and he was pitching so darn well. And out of nowhere, you just find out that he was actually injured, and now it's actually worse than we thought. So they're going to have to slow play Cody's return, and you could just hope that it's not going to get any worse from here. Now, as far as a positive note, when it comes to a starting pitcher, Max Scherzer, he had his rehab start for Round Rock. And again, we emphasize don't look too much into it. It was kind of rough on the stat line, but it was still Max Scherzer is pitching again. So let's take it for what it is. He's going to make another rehab start tomorrow, Tuesday, with Corpus Christi, the AA club in Texas. And then I would think after that, he's not far away from returning. I don't think it'll be this homestand. I think they've kind of figured out who they want to pitch the rest of this homestand. I think John Gray is lined up to start tomorrow. But I wouldn't be surprised if Max joins them when they head out on the road. I think it's they have Kansas City to start the road trip, and then they'll hit Oakland. So I wouldn't be surprised if Max makes his return by the end of this weekend if everything goes well in Corpus Christi, and assuming he doesn't deal with any hiccups. And then an update we got on Josh Young as well. I think I mentioned on the last pod on Friday he was going to get checked in Arizona to see if there's an update with his wrist fracture. As much as we know, as far as Josh Young is concerned, it sounds like the timeline is relatively sticking the same. Bruce Bochy said it'll be 4 to 5 to maybe even 6 weeks until Josh returns. And look, if that sticks with the timeline and it sticks with the idea that they're just going to wait until he's fully healthy to bring him back, fine by me. Josh Smith, as we've emphasized a lot, has played really well. Davis Wenzel, he got his first major league home run on Saturday. So maybe the power strokes start to show up for Davis. And I know he was playing some third base yesterday before Josh came in. So they have guys that can hold down the fort in the meantime. It's just a matter of, will they be able to consistently hold it down when this stretches on for another month, right? Another month and a half at least. So those are your key injury updates. Let's talk about Jack Leiter, who kind of got roughed up in his major league start. He made it through, or he pitched into the fourth inning against Detroit. We saw the greatness that is of Jack Leiter, but we also saw the weaknesses of Jack Leiter. Well, he went back down to AAA Round Rock, and shout out Michael Beer, who works with Foul Territory, does a lot with, a lot of the major pieces, gets featured a lot of places. He pointed out that Jack Leiter's most recent start, 6 innings, a hit allowed, no earned runs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, and he got 19 swings and misses. And look, maybe he's just too good for, I say quote unquote, maybe he's too good for AAA now, but it's clear that he was just called up for a spot start that first go around. Does that mean he'll make a return to the big league roster soon? Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Would I be surprised if it's within the next couple of weeks? Yeah, I would definitely be surprised if in the next couple of weeks. I think, like I mentioned, the rotation's in a pretty set spot right now. And the only thing that's going to disturb that is when Max Scherzer comes back, or when Cody Bradford comes back, or what they decide to do with Tyler Mahle, and then when Jacob deGrom comes back towards the end of the year. That's not to say I don't want Jack to be called up anytime soon. I would love to have him called up. He's another piece of this Rangers soon-to-be dynasty at the rate that they're drafting guys and putting guys with this current club. But it's good to see that he was able to bounce back the way he did, because they needed him to look better. All right, let's close out by looking ahead to the series that is upcoming starting tomorrow. The Washington Nationals coming in 13-14 on the year. And I know at the start of the year, people probably grouped 4 teams into the same category. The Colorado Rockies, the Chicago White Sox, the Oakland A's, and the Washington Nationals were probably all grouped in the same cluster, as far as these are the teams that we know are just going to be bad. I think that's fair to say. Washington has proven a lot of people wrong. I think Oakland, to their credit, they've actually very much been competitive in a lot of games they played this year. I just don't think they're taken seriously because of all the ownership situation and how poorly they've decided to just throw positive pieces away from their roster, etc. The White Sox are absolutely horrendous, so they still fit in that category. Colorado Rockies, kind of the same thing. But the Nationals have actually been very competitive this year. They're getting a great bounce back start to the year from Jesse Winker, who they picked up off just free agency, just gave him a 1-year prove-it deal. He's been a staple in their order. CJ Abrams has lit up in DC to start the year, and they've been getting some very efficient outings from some of the young pitchers. Not so much from Josiah Gray, who they've got a lot of faith in, but Mackenzie Gore has looked really solid to start the year. We don't know who we're going to see. Currently, it is TBD for the Nationals, but I can tell you that John Gray will be starting on Tuesday, and then it will be followed by Andrew Heaney on Wednesday, and then Thursday to close out the homestand will be back to Nate Eovaldi. So those 3 games upcoming. Curious to see how things go, because the Nationals, much like the Tigers, very frisky to start the year, and they're getting a lot of positive output from some of their young guys, and it's got to re-energize the team and the city for the most part. Similar to the Reds, right? A lot of young players playing really well re-energizes the city. It's kind of the same thing, just to a lesser extent. But that's going to do it for this edition of Believe in Texas Rangers. Again, be sure to like, subscribe, rate 5 stars, tell your friends about this place and how you can get more of your Texas Rangers coverage. We will be back after the National Series is through to get you ready for the upcoming road trip for the Rangers. So until next time, believe in Texas Rangers.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Granger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You know when you're listening to a true crime story that has an unbelievable plot twist that makes you stop in your tracks? That's what our podcast, People Are the Worst, brings you with each episode. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Rebecca. We're identical twins who love true crime cases that make you say, didn't see that coming, and we hate the people responsible for them. Listen to People Are the Worst now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.